A wise man once said, I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny that when a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get welcome to Head Games. Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is the Zombie Apocalypse, and in the Sir Mix-a-Lot fan club, they just call me Steve.
I can't believe that's still going. That's really something.
I work really hard to keep that thing going. All two of us.
Hey gang, I'm Jetterex, and in the glorious tradition of the Abzan clan, famous, of course, for their ample posteriors, I'm just called Tim.
Yeah, seriously, there's something about Abzan and bodacious booties. Thank you for joining us today on the Head Games Commander podcast, where we talk about the Magic the Gathering Commander format. So after listening to the same song for about 15 hours straight, what are we actually talking about today?
So today, it's time for yet another Commander Spotlight. We gave away the secret so far already, and who we're talking about today, I think a little, but we're going to do a deep dive into a new Commander deck that we just built, describing the deck strategy, what we love about the Commander, and highlighting some of our favorite cards in the deck. So the deck we are reviewing today was built by our friend Zombie, with a little help from me towards the end, as what usually happens when we build decks. This deck is from the Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander precons, and so I'm gonna let Zombie take over here. Who is the commander, and what is the rule 0 or the bracket conversation for this commander?
I guess we should change that to the bracket conversation now, huh? So
I think it could be both.
Yeah. So we are talking about Felothar The Steadfast. He is a 4-mana 1, an Abzan, which is white, black, and green. It says each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to the toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender, and then you can pay 3, tap it, and sacrifice another creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its powers. Boy, let me tell you, there's something about having card draw in your command zone that just draws me to a commander. And boy, let me tell you, this card draws you a lot.
Yeah, it really can.
So the bracket conversation that I have with this is I intentionally built this to be a 2. There's no game changers in the list. It can kind of punch up to a low bracket 3. This isn't an upgraded precon by any stretch of the word. This is a pile of 100 cards that me and Tim had come together to put forth. So it plays better than a precon, but there's nowhere else I want to put this. Like, I don't want to put this in a 3. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about the strengths and weaknesses of Felothar The Steadfast. And let me tell you, one of the strengths that I have for this thing is, where did I put my notes? Oh my God. Oh, I put it below you. It has good control over the board, and it can also rebuild really quickly after, I inevitably wipe the board 6 times. But one of the weaknesses, it kind of takes a little bit to set up first, unless if I'm getting like my explosive mana ramp. It takes a while. Like, this is like turn 6, turn 7, I start doing real serious stuff instead of turn 4, turn 5.
I think that really belies the power level for it, and we talked about this when we were playing this when you were playing this deck with other people, that this is exactly the challenge of the bracket systems as they exist today, where this is, by the kind of mathematic measurement in the brackets, definitely a 2, right. But it isn't a pre-con level deck. It's definitely better than that. Right. But it also doesn't have any game changers in it, so it doesn't really feel like a 3, which is why I feel like that point in between 2 and 3 is we're missing something there. We're missing this whole world of players who are building really synergistic decks that don't necessarily have the highest power cards, but are still capable of really remarkable things. And this deck definitely does that.
Right. So
I think that we only got to see it play the one game, but we spent a lot of time fishbowling this deck
Yep.
and talking about it back and forth. I think that one of the greatest strengths is that it does have a lot of good synergy, and I think it's actually an interesting strength that you get to play with cards that people don't normally see,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little bit tilting to other players because they're not really sure what to do against it.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're likely to be underestimated, that people will look at it and go, it's not really a big deal what the old wall deck over there is doing. And I think people who have played for a long time have played against commanders like this, like
Mm-hmm.
Doran the Siege Tower
Yep.
comes to mind. This is really in every way better than Doran because it gives you a lot more to do. And so again, they may see the deck list and underestimated a little bit. As far as weaknesses go, it's a heavily creature based deck,
Yeah.
so it's going to be vulnerable to board wipes. It's going to be vulnerable to single targeted removal without Felothar on the board. There are a couple other effects that do a similar thing, but not a lot. Those
Yeah.
got trimmed. So
Yeah.
really, also so really, without your commander on board, it's not gonna be. You're going to run into a lot of trouble. And I also think that it's really low on interaction. And I think part of the reason for that is traditionally in a deck like this, you would put interaction into your other categories.
Right.
Like you would have creatures that interact with
Mm-hmm.
other people's creatures, like fight mechanics, destroy
Yep.
ETBs, stuff like that, and that just doesn't exist in this card base, in the
Yep.
like defender card base. So that's really tricky. It also occurred to me when you mentioned board wipes before that one of the really great strengths of this is almost all of the board wipes, if not all of them, are one-sided.
Very much one-sided.
It's a huge strength in that oftentimes you have to be careful about when you use your board wipes so they don't set you back more than they set other people back.
Right.
In this case, you don't have to do that. You
Right.
can be really aggressive with them and
Oh.
try to get the advantage.
Oh, and I was really aggressive with those board wipes. Now, one thing that I will mention that kind of won't get brought up in any of these categories is I run a lot of protection pieces to kind of mitigate that weakness of if I don't have my commander, I'm not doing anything problem. Like I
That's
run
true. Yeah.
Malachite Rebirth, Heroic Intervention, the card that you can gift the card to give things indestructible. Like I just Flawless Maneuver is another one. Like I have a lot of things that say give your commander protection. So because there's no really good category to put that in, and that's not really necessarily a goal of the deck. Like I didn't want to spend too much time talking about it because quite frankly those cards are kind of boring, but I did want to bring it up here that I do have other things to kind of prevent me from getting just completely wiped out by a really good time board wipe.
And it's a good note because if somebody were to play this deck, if you were to build this, it probably is good to think about running more of those protection spells than you might in other kinds of decks because of how much this deck depends on the commander. That's a pretty good note.
So
in the next section, we go into the stats, and these are always a little bit wibbly wobbly, right? Like in some cases, like what really qualifies as a card draw spell. Lots of things just say draw a card on them. Do we count those things or not? Ramp can be a little tricky, and oftentimes we have things that count in both categories. As we go through our card picks today, you'll definitely notice that some of these cards really cross over into different categories. But the basic stats, as we call them, is card draw spells, ramp spells, single targeted removal, and board wipes. So Steve, go ahead and give us the stats overall.
All right. So in the card draw section, we have 11 and a half ish. There's a couple cards that like replace themselves, but I didn't want to.
You got to stop cutting your cards in half, man. The judges don't like that.
They really don't. In fact, they banned a card because of that. The next section is ramp, and we have a hard 12 on that one. Single target removal, it's a little lower. It's only 3. And board wipes, it's a lot higher than I normally would run at 5.
Isn't that funny that 5 board wipes, 3 single targeted removal, and really
it's swapped.
One is so low, and the other one, like 5 board wipes. Actually, I would say is a pretty solid number in most decks. I think
Yep.
it's probably a little bit more than most people play, but I think 5 is a solid number. So really, but interesting to see a deck where you have more board wipes than single targeted
It is
removal.
kind of fast. Well, it's almost like I can use my board wipes as single targeted removal
Yeah,
because they don't affect me at all.
right,
And if they
right.
do, I can just use a protection piece with it, which makes it even worse.
I wonder what the number would be in if you considered instead of single targeted removal, if you considered it single targeted interaction, and because then you could add the protection spells
Oh, then there would be like
and
12.
right, then it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I was thinking about bringing that up where I wanted to mention instead of calling them board wipes, it'd be like masked denial of something.
Sure.
Because like Meekstone's not a board wipe, but we'll talk more about it later, but
Ooh,
it controls the board so well.
what a great point. Yep.
So we'll discuss this in futures, and we might change things up a little bit. So we're gonna actually go ahead and go and highlight some cards in each of these sections, and talk about them. We love gushing about cards, so that's what we're gonna do. So Tim, why don't you tell
That's what
us?
we do.
So Tim, why don't you tell us what the first card draw spell is?
So the first card I'm going to talk about is Fecund Greenshell, and this is a 5 mana 4/6 elemental turtle with reach. So it breaks a couple of the rules. It doesn't have defender. It does have a bigger butt than it does, and it cares about them. So this could have gone into a lot of different categories for sure. And I picked it first because I'm going to just say it right now. If you're building a toughness matter deck, this card should be in it if you're in that color. And let's face it, if you're in a
You will.
toughness matter, you're in green. So the green shell's a 5 mana 4/6 with reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2. Not always relevant. Actually, sometimes something of a downside. But the bottom bar of the deck text is the most important part. Whenever the green shell or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield. You may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So in this deck, all of the creatures meet that. Not all. Okay,
I think one
there's
doesn't.
two or three. I could think of two. Um,
While you're talking about it,
so
I'm gonna go look.
oh, maybe it is just the one. When we were building, there was more than one, but I think it
Yeah.
may have only ended up being one. So almost all the creatures meet this qualifier, which basically means this is a 5 mana. Whenever a creature enters, you either draw the top card, or if it's a land, you just throw it right into play. So it's better than just card draw. There, I said it.
Yeah, it really is. So I am seeing two cards that don't have a higher toughness.
Out of 40, a little
30,
less than 40,
35. Yeah.
35.
Yeah,
Yeah.
only two. And
So that means 33 creatures meet the qualifier.
but you know what's funny about those cards? One's a ramp card and the other's a card draw card. So
Yes,
like it's just doing what it's
unsurprising.
supposed to do anyway.
That's right. So this turtle is fantastic, and really, like, there are even probably decks out there that aren't so centered or focused on toughness mattering, but in this one, this just is an incredible card draw engine.
Oh, it is an engine by itself. So we're going to go ahead and go into my card draw spell. And I decided I wanted to talk about my top end card draw spell. And if you're talking about toughness matters, you really can't get much better than this. And we're talking about Last March of the Ents. It is a 8 mana spell, 6 and 2 green, sorcery. It can't be countered, but it can get countered if you're getting it back from your graveyard. That really hurt me, Tim. But the card says draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Ugh, this could be a ramp piece because like you're cheating so much mana cost.
Yep.
I tried to cast it twice in one game, and someone was not okay with that.
Mhm. Well, we saw what happened the first time, so they did try to stop you from doing it a second time.
Well,
Yes.
they did a very good
Once
job stopping
Yeah,
the
once
second
you've
time.
seen this card successfully cast, you will understand what we're talking about. And listen, it is a kind of spin the wheel card. There is a chance that you will not get an enormous amount of creatures off of it, but really, if you're patient and just wait until the right moment to do it, you're probably drawing somewhere between 5 to 7 cards.
Minimally, I'm drawing 5 because I'm probably not casting this card without my commander on the battlefield.
Right. So commander is the floor at that point.
Yep.
5 card draw minimum, and then any number of creatures. So if you've got a couple of high mana value creatures in your hand already, holding out to get this out, to get them all at once, with all the ensuing shenanigans that'll happen as a result, just a super powerful card.
Yeah, this card's amazing.
Perfect for the list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, so now we are going to slide right into the ramp section. Tim, what card did you pick for ramp?
I think this choice was a little strange because, again, it could go into a couple of different categories there. But I was trying to pick one that that really was explosive, and I picked Growing Rights of Itlamok. So this is an enchantment. It's 2 and a green. It's technically a legendary enchantment. When it enters, look at the top 4 of your library. You could reveal a creature from among them and put it into your hand. Rest on the bottom. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform it. And on the back, it is essentially Gaia's Cradle. A little upside, actually. It taps for a green or taps for a green for each creature you control. So Itlamok, Cradle of the Sun on the back. This deck is very creature centric. It wants to have 4 more creatures in play.
Right.
Like it really wants to do that. Right. So I thought that this was a smart include in the deck because it does usually replace itself with the next creature out of the top 4 cards. You can whiff sometimes, but I think you are playing, 35 creatures like you said.
Yeah.
So really you should be at a 1 and 3 at that point. Right. High likelihood that you're going to hit something off of Growing Rights. But really that backside, when it starts making 4, there it is. Butt jokes. Yeah, 4 or 5 mana off of this is not uncommon to see, and that's just really powerful. It really leaps you forward in the mid game.
Yeah, it was. This was actually like one of our like later picks too. Like this was like, oh, I just thought of this card and it sounds amazing. What I really like about this is, since I do such a good job of protecting my creatures or mass reanimating them back, or like, I have a lot of low to the ground creatures. So like a lot of my creatures cost 2. So like getting to that 4 creatures early isn't that difficult. And the fact that it draws me a card. So like this is one of my draw spells, even though it only gets me 1, it replaces itself and it's selective card draw, but like it's still card draw. It's still giving me that extra advantage that a normal card wouldn't do. And oh man, it did some work for me on Friday.
Excellent addition.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and go to my ramp spell. There's several cards like this one, but this is my favorite of them all. I chose Axebane Guardian. It's a 3 mana human druid with Defender, and it says add X mana of any combination of colors where X is the number of creatures you control with Defender. So I have 3 creatures that do the same thing. One costs 4, this one costs 3, and then the other one only taps for green, but it also costs 2. So upsides and downsides for all of them, but this one I like because it does give me all the colors that I want at the cheapest rate.
Yeah, any combination of colors, such a rare text line. You just do not
I am
see
so
that.
Grateful that it says that.
Yeah, and in a 3-color pile, that is incredibly impactful. So yeah, I understand. Each of those kind of incrementally gets better, I think.
Yeah, because the 4/1
top one checks for toughness.
Yeah, the 4-drop checks like the highest toughness. So like that card says just add 5 mana, even if it's just him and my commander. Where this one, like, I have to have some sort of board state to actually make it do something. But I like this one the best because I can get it down before my commander. And then I just like this one a lot. So, and the fact that I can choose the colors, because like, if I'm not mistaken, the color spread on my list is kind of even. Yeah, so it's even between white and green and barely any black. So we're talking 40, 40, 20. Like that's what the breakdown here is. So like I need to make sure I'm getting the colors that I need. And since I have so many white pips and so many green pips, like just being able to split it down the middle to where I want it. The problem with this card is I have to plan a little bit harder. Like I have to know what
Yeah.
I'm doing beforehand, where it's like with my door deck, I'm like, hey, I can do whatever I want with 2,000 mana, but here actually the colors matter.
Dang, you have to do math in a game about numbers?
What the heck? What was I thinking? So, that's enough about the ramp pieces. There's not too many great single targeted removal, but I want to talk about them anyway because I like these cards. Like I like both the cards we picked. So Tim, what is the first single target remover?
Yeah, so I just flipped a coin to figure out which of the two leftover cards after you picked
Mhm.
yours I was gonna pick. It's not true at all. I picked
Okay.
Assassin's Trophy. If you know, you know. Like it's a black and a green. Destroy target permanent opponent controls. They can search for a basic and put it onto the battlefield. Single targeted removal at its most distilled. This can take care of literally any problem on the board, and they get to replace it with a basic land. So you're in the colors. Like I'm a pretty big believer, and I know this is not something everybody is going to agree with, but if you're in black and green, you should probably have this card in your deck.
And I want to point this out. There isn't a Swords to Plowshares or a Path to Exile. I wanted my removal to hit anything and everything because,
Yeah.
and there's a reason why. For all the board wipes that I have, they all get rid of creatures. They're not going to get rid of mine, and they're going to get rid of yours. So I didn't need cards that say get rid of that specific creature when I'm saying get rid of all of your creatures. So that's why I didn't put those cards in here. So we're going to go ahead and go to my next card. And one thing I like, we picked Mythos of Nethroi. It is a 3-mana spell, 2 and a black, instant, destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature, or if green and white was spent to cast this spell. So what this distills down to, I can pay 3 to destroy a creature, or I can pay 1 of each color to destroy anything. That's what this distills down to. I like the fact that I can just use it as destroy target creature, or if I want to get more specific, I can pump the green and white into it. It's not that hard with the land base that I have. So yeah, I like how versatile this spell is.
Yeah, so not a lot to say about the single target removal, except that they're all very versatile. And to spoil the surprise, the third one is Anguished Unmaking, which also hits almost anything. There you go.
Yeah.
3 targeted removals, all of them hit almost everything. That's the point.
That was the point of my single target removal. So we're gonna hop into the board wipes now. This section's actually surprisingly fun. The cards that I picked are obvious why I picked these cards, but they're just fun to talk about anyway. So
They really are, and the fact that they all look kind of similar, but each have their own kind of upside. I think, in terms of when they're really good and what they're really good at. So the first one is the Battle of Bywater. This is a 3-mana 1 and 2 white sorcery. It reads: destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, then create a food token for each creature you destroy. There are very few creatures in your list that have power 3 or greater. Like, it's got to be single digits, low single digits. I'm going to guess 3. It's not very many.
Higher
Maybe
than
not
3?
even.
3 or higher, right?
3 is, yeah. Power 3 or greater.
2.
2, yeah. So out of the 35 creatures in the deck, only 2
3,
of them get destroyed.
3. I missed another card we're talking about later.
Well, now you made me a liar.
Well, that's what I like to do. I'm the good guy here, and clearly you're the villain, Tim.
That's
totally
true.
Definitely not how that is.
So yeah, I actually when you first brewed this deck, this card was already in it, and one of the things that when we went through the kind of filtering and upgrading, one of the goals in my mind was to make this card as powerful as possible, was to take out as many creatures that would get killed by this, so this just always becomes an aggressive card.
Yep.
And so the number of the creatures that make the cut, and if you look at the list, you'll see what we're talking about. The creatures that do have power 3 or greater all are 100% worth it. Like they are all absolute rock stars. Like Felothar Green Shell is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and cards we're going to talk about later are among them as well. So there's no stragglers in the cards that get destroyed by this, and that's by design. So
Yeah.
Battle of the Bywater, just backbreaking.
Yeah, so the other creature that can get destroyed by Battle Baywater is Shalai, Voice of Plenty. I could see that card getting removed because it's just one of my protection pieces.
That's right.
But it's a really good protection piece, and it's a great mana sink.
And it's a great mana sink for like when this deck gets to the end game and ends up with an enormous amount of mana. Yeah, Shalai's good to have.
Wait, I make a deck that makes an enormous amount of mana, Tim?
I don't think you're capable of anything else.
No, I don't think so. So we're going to go ahead and go into my board wipes. I'm actually going to bring up two of the board wipes. The first one that we're going to talk about is Expel the Interlopers. It is a 5-mana board wipe. It's 3 and 2 white. Choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the number chosen. Man, I can just say 1 and you're going to lose everything you have. And I'm not.
Yep.
And worst case, I choose 0 and then just play a protection piece for free, like Flawless Maneuver or something.
Yep.
Whoopsies. What happened to your board? I don't know what happened. And the other card I wanted to bring up specifically is Slaughter the Strong. It is a 3-mana board wipe. That's what I really like about this one. It is 1 and 2 white. Each player chooses any number of creatures you control with a total power of 4 or less, then sacrifice all the others. What I like about this one is that you have to sacrifice it. So I can't play a protection piece with this to save all my creatures. But like the other day, I had a card that says return all creature cards that up to 10 power of 10. I returned 15 creatures and only got the 5. So, whoopsies. Really great when it comes to a deck that is not worried about like having high power at all. So yeah, I just had to bring this one up too. I really had trouble picking. So
yeah, both Slaughter the Strong and the Battle of Bywater also are above curve. Like they're both 3 mana.
Yeah.
So really, your investment in terms of probably a one-sided board wipe is incredibly low. So I mean, they're build-arounds for sure, but they just slot into this deck archetype with no worries whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah, actually I remember the Slaughter the Strong going off, and what's nice about that is that if you do have a bunch of actual defenders with 0 power, you get to keep one of those big power creatures like the Green Shell or Shalai. You get to pick that as one of the things you keep. So it still ends up feeling pretty one-sided, especially when everybody else is trying to put a lot of power on the board.
Right. Now there's a couple cards that are in this deck that kind of counteract this, but who cares?
Yeah.
Like Mirari's Wake is one of the ones where it's like it gives +1/+1 to everything, and that kind of doesn't work very well with Slaughter the Strong. It works fine with Battle of Baywater, but since you're only keeping a total of 4 power, it makes it not as good. Or does it, Tim? We'll talk more about that later.
I'm still on the fence with that one. And again, the Green Shell pumps your team too once you get to 10 lands. But at that point of the game, if you're at 10 lands,
I don't need to play Slaughter the Strong.
Probably, maybe not. So it's tough because there is a little bit of non-bow that happens there. But that's the challenge of this kind of deck, is that like you end up playing with non-traditional cards, and then you end up with board states where you go, man, I wish this part of this card wasn't happening in this way.
Right.
So that's a little tough. So that's it. That's it for what we call the traditional card types. Now we go into the part where we kind of create new categories for this individual deck, like what we like to call the goals of the deck, which can be a little different depending on the build. Sometimes it's really hard to really pin down what the different kind of touchstones of a deck strategy are. In this one, it's fairly straightforward, so we have to kind of break down each goal a little bit further. So Steve, tell us what the categories that you came up with for the next section.
Yeah, so the first goal was just cards that had big butts that were really good. So I called them the biggest, best booties. So the second goal were the big booty payoffs. The third goal is giving them unblockable or something of the ilk, and then the last goal is just other ways that this deck can win. And boy, let me tell you, there's a lot more than just combat damage this deck can win.
Yeah.
Which makes this deck quite interesting and a lot of fun to play. So, Tim, what's the biggest butt that you could find?
So the biggest butt I found was Wall of Shards. This is from Cold Snap, a set that everybody played a lot of.
Yep.
It is 1 and a white, so 2 mana for a 1/8 flying defender. And it has a cumulative upkeep where an opponent gains 1 life. So that sounds like just a terrible card,
It
right?
really
and
is.
This is my favorite kind of include in a deck like this, where this card is probably a penny to buy it. It is such hot garbage under almost all circumstances. But here, it is an 8/8 flyer when your commander hits the board.
Whoopsies.
And yes, that 1 life that you're giving out to one of your 3 opponents every turn. And yes, that gets cumulative, but it's just 1 at a time. 1, then 2, then 3. But really, when you've got an 8/8 flyer swinging in, that doesn't matter.
I was about to say, I think 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 loses to 8 + 8 + 8 + 8.
Yeah.
I think there is a certain life total where that math does work out, where the 1 + 2 + 3 wins. But all you math majors out there, please tell me, what's the magic number that they have to be at for that to work? Yeah. What a great card. You know, when I first built this thing, I thought about it, and then I'm like, it doesn't really do anything. But then I thought, an 8/8 flyer does a lot. So here we are. It's in the list, and it's wonderful.
And I think that's it. Like in the first build of the deck, there was a lot of payoffs. Like a lot of like big things that if you have a lot of toughness on the board, this happens.
Right.
And really the rebuild included driving the curve down and including more cards like this, so that as soon as Felothar hits the board, you are now aggressive. So this comes out on 2 or 3, a turn or 2 before your commander, preferably 1. You really don't want that cumulative upkeep to be going off too much.
Right.
But if this comes down on turn 3 ahead of your commander, it's swinging in for 8 on turn 4. That is not bad. Even in commander, when you're staring down the barrel of 120 life to deal with on your opponents, 8/8 flyer on the 4th turn is not bad at all. And then once you are untapped and can draw, this is 8 cards.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. What makes it even better for me is, even if I play, let's say if I played a Wall of Omens on turn 2, the Wall of Shards on turn 3, and then my commander on turn 4, I'm swinging in for 12 now.
That's
Like it just gets crazy how big these numbers get when you're under costing everything. So the card, my favorite biggest booty, which kind of doesn't make sense because it's a snake. It doesn't really have a butt. But Orin Frostfang is a 2/6. And it says, it costs 3 and 2 green. And it says attacking creatures you control have death touch. Surprisingly good. And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Wowzer. There's just a lot of
this card. Why does this card have a bigger toughness? Like, why?
Because it gives itself death touch and it wants to live but poison everybody. It's a tough snake. It's from a cold place. His name has Frostfang. He has to be tough to live in the cold place, right? Yeah, it doesn't need to have 6, but holy moly, I love this card. This card does amazing things in this creature.
I'm so glad it goes in the list. Like, I'm glad that it exists. It makes the deck better, but it's very funny to me. Like, why does this snake have a 6 toughness?
Because it shouldn't.
It's fine.
But dang, it's got... Oh, it should be called Orin Anaconda Frostfang because it's got an anaconda.
Yeah, Should be Anaconda.
It should be Anaconda. Anyway, before we get too sidetracked, Tim, what was your pick for the big booty payoff?
So this is the last card that has a power greater than 3. And I do think that it is in every way worth it, because every time I fishbowled the deck and I pulled this card, I was incredibly happy to see it. And it's remarkably easy in this deck to actually get to that big giant number. We're talking about Baitor, the kin to all. So this is not the pre-con Baitor. This is the one from the actual main set of Tarkir. It's 2 in Abzan, white, black, green. 5 mana total for a 5/7 flying creature, so it does have a bigger booty, at least meets that qualifier. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. If they have total toughness 20 or greater, untap all of your creatures. If you have total toughness 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life rounded up.
Man, this card just says win a game on it, doesn't it?
I love it. It's so great. And on again, at the floor of this is a 5/7 flyer that almost certainly draws you a card on your end step.
Why does it says end step too? That's what makes it so great.
You don't have to wait.
If it said upkeep,
I love that they've been doing
card,
that more lately.
If it said upkeep on the card, it would be nowhere near as good.
It wouldn't be in the deck.
I don't think it would. I don't even think it would make the cut. You're right.
Nope, it wouldn't be in the deck. The fact that it happens that you get that first one, and really again, don't discount the untap, right? Like, it's not hard. So this toughness is 7 out of 20. So it is a third of the way to the 20 number by itself. With it and your commander, you're at 12. So basically, if this is your 4th creature, trust and believe that you have 20 toughness on the board.
Oh,
so
easy.
You're getting those first 2 unless this is the only creature in play. Like, almost all the time, you're getting 20. So you're drawing a card and untapping all your creatures. Is that worth it? I think so. For 5 mana, I'll take it.
It's super spicy. So we're going to go ahead and go into my big booty paid off. And we're going to talk about Balden, Century's Herdmaster. He is a 6 mana, 4 and 2 white, legendary creature, human warrior, that says, during your turn, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Pretty sweet. And then when Balden attacks, up to 100 target creatures each get +0 +X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in my hand. And by the way, he's a 0/7. So, when your commander says draw cards equal to their toughness, I'm going to pay 3 to draw 8 cards and then attack everyone for 50. That sounds about fair, right?
Yeah, this is an absolute haymaker. Like, this is the top end where, you're holding this card until it's absolutely going to. The only downside to this is it's an attack trigger.
Yeah.
And so you do have to wait that. It has to survive the whole turn, or you have to manage to cheat it in, which I'm not even sure it can do at instant speed. So you're probably going to have to wait that full cycle before this can go off. But if it does, high likelihood you win. This will put enough damage on the table to win. I
mean, I also have a lot of protection pieces too. So
that's fair.
Putting it down and then just, needing to cast that heroic intervention to save this baddie. Easy, yes. Even Malekith's Rebirth. Let it die and then just let it come back. That's all right. Yep. Good enough for me. Yeah, this card's absolutely busted, and it's just going to say when he attacks, I pretty much win the game.
That's right. If you have any number of other creatures on board and a grip, you're good.
I'm good. And it's pretty easy to get a grip when you have so many cards that have big butts. All right, so the next category is giving them unblockable, Tim. So tell us.
So I think on this list, there's a really obvious choice, and neither of us picked it.
I kind of left it for you, by the way. We should talk about that card too.
Well, here's the reason. I will talk about it, and I think that there's a reason that we didn't pick it. And the card that we're alluding to is I gotta find it. It's called Behind the Scenes.
Yeah.
Two in a black enchantment. Creatures have skulk, and the reason we didn't pick it is it's in the Felothar precon. Like it's built for this card. It is an obvious include that if you look at the precon list, you're probably going to find that this card exists. You're going to go, oh crap, Skulk is really good with creatures that have no power. So I think that while I just told y'all about it, it's not the most valuable thing for us to talk about in the podcast because we want to introduce you to cards that you may not already be aware of that weren't in the precon
Right.
that are probably going to upgrade your play a little bit more, which I think is that's I think why we made some of the choices that we made. So the card I want to talk about is McCready Lamplight Mayor. This is from the Fallout precons. It's a white and a black. It's a 1/3 legendary human advisor. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, it gains Skulk until end of turn, which means it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. And then it also has a second line that whenever a creature with power 4 or greater attacks you, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. And remember, like that's whenever a creature with power 4 or greater attacks you, that can trigger multiple times.
Right.
So it disincentivizes people from attacking you with big creatures because it makes them do less damage and also hurts them in the process. But the first line is the important part. It basically gives all of your low power creatures Skulk, and if 0 is the number, that just literally makes them unblockable.
Yeah. Pretty solid card. I don't even remember how I found this card because I don't think it was on the EDX Retch page or anything like that. I think I was just like randomly just looking through cards and I was like, wait a second, this seems pretty solid. And that second line of text that he has doesn't matter too much because honestly, big creatures aren't going to really be swinging my way anyway because I have such big creatures. Like my creatures are so big and hard to get through in the first place. I'm not getting attacked all that much.
Yeah, it's true. The second line's not super important, but the Skulk line, and really, if you do a search for things that give Skulk, there really aren't that many.
Right.
So, but this one, it fits in the deck quite well.
Yeah, so the card that I picked is also in the precon, but he originally wasn't. He was one of the original partner commanders, and that's why I know him. We're talking about Sidar Kondo of Jamura. He is 2, a green and a white for a legendary creature human knight. He has flanking, which I will explain because it's weird. Whenever a creature without flanking blocks this creature, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So if you're blocking this creature, you're going to get -1/-1, which is hilarious. And then creatures your opponents control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less. And it has partner. That's the most important text on this card, right, Tim? Partner?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to do without that?
I know. I would cry, actually.
Hey, I just noticed this. I just noticed that your opponents can hit each other with this ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, creatures your opponents control can't blah 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 can't block creatures with power 2 or less. So it actually makes it so your opponents can hit each other unblockable if they have creatures that are small enough. While it didn't come up in that last game, it's definitely a great like political tool to use to be like, oh hey, just so you know, if you didn't read the card, you can hit him without being him blocking because he doesn't have fly or reach.
Send all your Land of War elves into battle.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get too sidetracked, we're going to go ahead and go into the next section, which is other ways to win without combat damage. So, Tim, you picked a spicy one, so please tell us more.
So what I'm going to say is that this doesn't exactly win without combat damage, but I really think that this can sneak out a win situation. And anybody who's ever built a Toughness Matter deck has probably played with this card in it. And I'm talking about Tree of Perdition. This is a 4 mana 0/13 defender. It's a black card, 3 and a black. You can tap it to exchange target opponent's life total with this creature's toughness, and
Wow. Wow.
that's a little complicated. Or at least it's an effect where it's not incredibly clear what's going on there, but it does actually do just what it says on the box. You permanently exchange target opponent's life total for whatever this creature's toughness is when the ability resolves. So if somebody's at 40 or more life, you got one of those pesky Bilbo birthday celebrant life gain
Hey,
decks.
hey, hey. I
If,
take offense to that, Tim.
if they're at 111 life, you can make this an 111 creature,
Mm.
and they are now at 13 life. If you add that then into the cards that we just talked about, the sculpt cards that make this unblockable, if you trigger this on the end step and attack with only this, you are going to one-shot somebody. So I think that this creates winning board state without you having to necessarily overrun or attack with a
Right.
whole bunch of creatures. This basically says I will tap this on my end step and you will die on my turn with one attacker.
Or better yet, I deck myself. That's a good way to win, right?
Sure.
I
It's a good
mean,
way to go home.
yeah, I got to do my laundry. You're gonna be at 13. I'm gonna sack this and draw 40 cards, okay? Have a great rest of your night. So, yeah, I do want to point out there, I do not have Tree of Redemption in here. Because I don't like that card as much because it's exchanging my life total. I don't want to go to 13. I don't have too much life gain in here. And going down to 13 sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, it didn't end up making the cut because it's like, I mean, it was in the original list just because it was a big O13 wall, but really there wasn't enough of an upside for that to really be impactful. So yeah, it didn't end up making the cut. But yeah, this tree definitely does some work.
So the card that I picked, I guess I picked a lot of cards from the precon. I didn't realize this was from the precon too, but we're talking about Jaws of Defeat. It is a 4-mana enchantment, 3 and a black. Whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and toughness. It makes math a little bit more complicated, and I don't like it. But when you pair that together with, a mass reanimation spell, and you're bringing back, 15 creatures, it just says, I win.
Yeah, it is. I see this as the sneaky combo that is like that is buried in the deck. That this is incrementally good over the game. Like if you get this early on and you're just doming people every time you cast a creature spell, that's good. You get extra damage in there. But really, it's fantastic. I mean, this is how you won that game.
It is, yeah.
Is playing this and having had several board wipes happen, and you had the mass reanimation spell and this. That was enough. That was enough to take everybody out in one fell swoop.
That was when I intentionally played Slaughter the Strong to get rid of a lot of my creatures too. So there was like plans that made it even better. So like my Nombos still helped me win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this card is not something you want to sleep on. If you're in a toughness matters. Otherwise, I think this card is kind of silly and doesn't matter, but yeah, this card's fun.
It really incentivizes you to play like actual walls. Like it incentivizes you to play things that are like 0/4s instead of 2/4s, right? Because and really that is what we the direction the deck that ended up being the finished product. That's the direction that we went with it. And I think that it's better for it, like leaning into that and having more actual walls in the deck, more, 0/8s, 1/8s. It just really makes cards like this much more powerful.
Alrighty. So that is the end of our goals.
that's the end of the goals. We're going to move on to a new section that we added a couple videos ago called honorable mentions. Basically, there's 100 cards. Obviously, some of those are lands, but we often have a card that we think is just really impressive that we couldn't really figure out where else to put in the deck, or what other category it could go into. So we've got a couple of those to talk about before we move towards wrapping up for today. So I'll let Steve go first on this one. What card would you consider an honorable mention in this list?
So we did bring this card up a little earlier today. I really had trouble finding a place for it, but I really did want to talk about it. It is Meekstone. If you're playing it in any Toughness Matter decks, this should just go in the list. Or even just like any sort of control build where you don't have many creatures. But it says it's a 1-mana artifact, so the entry level is also just really low. And it says creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their creatures untap steps. So it is a stacks piece. But Tim, how many creatures did we say have over power of 3?
3.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep doing this. I am sorry that I hurt you.
No, I love this card. I like it's just such a blast from the past, and such a, for anybody who's been playing as long as we have, like seeing this card in a Commander game, I can't even be mad. Like, yeah, it's a stacks piece and it shuts down, a large swaths of what some of my decks are doing. It's still just awesome to see. It's a very strong card, and again, as you said, 1 mana. The opportunity cost is so low. You put very, very little resources into getting this card out, and you will get a lot of benefit out of it.
Alrighty, Tim. What card did you pick?
Mine's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum in that it's like very, very new and also very, very niche, because it's from the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth Commander. And it's Ramas Ekor, Ancient Shield. It's a legendary artifact. It's 3 and a white. It reads, whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card, then create a 0/3 white wall with Defender. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control with Defender gain Exalted until end of turn. Now, I realize now as I'm reading this that there is something, if you're trying to play on the Skulk plan, that you have that non-bow here where the creature gets pumped before it's getting in. But if you also have an army of defenders and you've got one of those guys that has flying, they all get exalted. You attack in with the one big attacker here.
Yeah.
And, you're going to choose the place where you're going to be able to get that attacker through. So I really think the first line is really where I think it shines.
I agree.
Like, the second spell cast, drawing a card and getting an 0/3 wall for free is just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it basically says, hey, cast 2 spells in a single turn, get a 3/3. Like, the upfront cost of being 4 is a little pricey, but, like, let me tell you, every time that I saw this card when playtesting it, man, it just shines. And, like, as you said, like, sometimes I don't need to use the Skulk plan. Sometimes I just need to hit one person with one really big creature. And if you don't have a flyer and I have a wall of shards and 5 defenders, go ahead and take 13, dude. Just take 13 to the face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you draw a card too. It's not just the 0/3 wall. Like, so this replaces itself very quick. If you cast this and then follow it up with another spell, you immediately get the trigger.
Okay, I didn't count this as card draw. I missed that little bit.
Yeah, there you go. There's 12. We're at 12 now. Not 11.
Fixed it.
It's not 11 and a half.
So, yeah, what a great pick. Man, again, that card is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are going to go into the cards that we are considering. They're not in the list, but they're fun cards that we might consider if we wanted to make this in paper and update it. These are cards we might use. So, Tim, what did you pick?
So I tried really hard to find a card that we actually didn't talk about at all, as far as I remember, when we were actually brewing the deck. And if you remember, when we went back to revise it, one of the things that I really pushed for was to have more kind of incremental recursion. Mm-hmm. If you look in the list, Battle of Hoover Dam is in there for that reason.
Yep.
Originally, we had talked about Sarah Paragon as well. Mm-hmm. Not only one of them ended up making the cut, so we kept the enchantment. So this is in that same vein. And it is a brand new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm. It's called Smile at Death. It is 3 and 2 white. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. So again, it's got the. I actually wish the +1/+1 counter
It
clause
wasn't on
wasn't
there.
there,
Like, oh, that,
but
but,
but
but,
I. How many? Somebody go back and count how many times we said "but" in this episode.
put
It's
that in the
still
comments below, please.
it's still very good. It's still like I actually I think that
Yeah,
I really like incremental recursion in this deck because again your commander is sacrificing just one creature a turn most of the time, but maybe you have other things die, maybe you discard to hand size. This then puts those things right back into play, and you have a lot of things that have enters effects like the walls of blossoms, walls of omen. So having those things, those are the ones you're sacrificing early on as
that's
well. So
true.
getting those back later without having to spend mana to do it every turn, I think that this is pretty neat in the late game. I might consider replacing Battle of Hoover Dam with
That's
this.
so here's the thing. Would you rather have 2+1/+1 counters on your upkeep, or would you rather have a finality counter on your end step? Because I'm pretty sure battle is on
No, you're totally right. Battle happens on the end step, and it's a finality
um
counter.
yeah, so like what's worse, a finality counter or 2/1/1 counters?
One, 1/1/1
Oh,
counter.
it's
You
only
get two
one?
creatures.
Oh, you get
You
two
get two
creatures. Oh,
creatures.
this is so much better. Oh my god, this is so much better. Two
Yeah,
target I
each
read that so wrong. Yeah, this card
yeah
needs to go on the list.
each creature gets a +1/+1 counter. Yeah, it's two target creatures.
Yeah, no, that card's busted. What were we thinking? How did we not see this card?
I just missed it.
Oh, God, we're so bad at this game. What were we thinking? Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go to my cards to consider. This card's just fun. I like big splashy cards. I love mass reanimation. We're talking about Eerie Interlude, which is white, black,
Ultimatum.
black. I'm sorry, Eerie Ultimatum. Eerie Interlude is something totally different. But
Very different card.
Very, very different card. Costs a lot less and does not as much fun stuff. Eerie Ultimatum. It's 2 white, 3 black, 2 green. It's a sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Do I need to say
I think
more?
this should be in it.
It really should.
I think it's. I like we saw in that last game what the benefit of mass reanimation spell was at the end of the game, and I totally fully think that having 2 mass reanimation spells, the one you've got in there is perfect.
Yep.
And then this is the other ones cost 6, right? 4 and 2 white, and so this is
7.
one more.
It's 5 and 2 white. No, it's 5 and 2 white.
Is it 5 and 2 white?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they both cost 7.
Yeah.
But they do very similar things. They effectively do the same thing, and I think having 2 in the deck makes a lot of sense. I don't know what I would do, what I would take out for it. But
honestly,
I do think
Mirari's Wake probably would be a good replacement.
Maybe.
But yeah, man, like the cool thing is like when I do have bigger, like just imagine, okay, I sacrifice Baitor, right? Draw 7, discard 5. I just load my graveyard with big dumb fatties, and then just return them all back. Like
Yeah.
Like towards the end of the game, the game that we did play, I started doing that because I had the other mass reanimation spell in my hand, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start discarding cards, and I drew into the card we talked about earlier, where each target opponent loses life for the difference between power and toughness. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to start loading everything into my graveyard. And I think I did a total of 57 damage for a total of 12 mana, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good rate.
That seems like a good rate. Yep.
Seems like a good rate. So I believe that's all we have to say about this today.
Yeah, let me ask you one final question before we move to the end. Like, so what's your impression overall of this deck? You know, we built it in a digital format where we haven't yet put it in paper as an experiment for our content. I don't mind like being straightforward about that. Of course. Like, what do you think? Is this something that you're interested in building? I mean, do you think that this is better than the other kind of Toughness Matters decks we've seen in the past?
Okay, one thing that I will say about this deck that I really do enjoy, and that I maybe would one day want to build this thing. This is just a good pizza and like beer kind of deck, right? This is the I'm chill, you're chill, we're all chill, everyone's having a great time kind of deck. There's a couple of mean cards in here, but realistically speaking, we're talking like one Meekstone, right? There's a lot of board wipes. People can get salty with board wipes and everything too. But I did it again. It's just it's a fun deck. Like you have to think sometimes, like really when it comes to just like when you're producing so much mana, like Mana Reflections just is a very difficult card to play with. I love that card, but it makes math complicated. One thing that I do like about having this on digital versus in real paper is Moxfield has a mana tracker, and it just makes it easy to, and then you can show it on your screen. Things aren't switching from zones too much, so like it's a very good deck to play digitally too. So I mean, it might not be the last time I play it. This deck was kind of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. But I think it's time for us to wrap things up.
Yeah, all right. Well, friends and opponents, we have reached the rear end of our time together. We've hit the bottom, the tail end. All that's left is for us to leave it all behind. So thanks, as always, for spending time with us on the Head Games Commander podcast. Remember, you can support the show, all of our other content, by watching this and other videos over on our YouTube page. Check out our streams on Twitch and YouTube. Links in the description.
And before we scoop things up, we want to hear from you, the think tank. What commanders are you looking forward to build in the next new set? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for playing along with us and have a wonderful booty day. Bye.